Hello and welcome to the Black Entrepreneur Blueprint Show. I am your host, Jay Jones. Black Entrepreneur Blueprint was created specifically to educate and inspire Black entrepreneurs to launch, build, and grow successful businesses. Join us as we help build an economic power base in the Black community by promoting business ownership. If you are currently an entrepreneur or want to be an entrepreneur, we invite you to join us every week here at Black Entrepreneur Blueprint.
Welcome to the Black Entrepreneur Blueprint, episode number 174. I'm your host, Jay Jones, and today we have another informative show for you. Today's show topic, to franchise or not to franchise. Now, I've looked at franchises over the last 10, 15 years. I've probably requested information from, 20 to 30 different franchises. And it seems like once you do that, you get on some type of list. And I get franchise offers all the time. So I do look at them, but there's some pros and cons to franchising. And I get a lot of my consulting clients, they ask me about franchising or going out on their own. So there are pros and cons to both. But what I want to talk about today is the value of the franchise. Now, there are a lot of pros, and let me give you some of the pros with a franchise. They have a proven system, supposedly. They should have name recognition, and obviously you get the support. So the proven system, you definitely want to look at that and need that. Name recognition is very important. So if you're going to buy a McDonald's franchise, that's being able to print money basically once you sign up, because McDonald's has the name recognition. Now, if you go into another type of franchise that really has no name recognition, or they're very new, the question is it really worth it? And the other plus is support. If you do buy a franchise, you do need to make sure that you have the support of the organization. They help you and they teach you, show you the process and procedures and best practices so you'll be successful. And obviously, a franchisee wants you to be successful, because the more money you make, the more money they make. Now, here are some of the cons. Number one, the cost. A lot of franchises, and I'm going to detail a few of them that I've looked at that to me were ridiculous in terms of the cost. So that's prohibitive a lot of times. McDonald's franchises right now, like $1.5 million on the low end, up to like $2.2 million. So if you don't have that type of capital, or you're not able to bring a group together with that type of capital, it's a wrap. Next, in terms of the cons, you have to follow the policies and procedures to a T, or you could lose your franchise opportunity. And one of the other cons is also lifetime royalty payments. A lot of times you'll have the royalty payments and you'll have the co-op advertising payments, which can go anywhere from 6 to 8% and even higher in some instances. So you're always going to be paying that royalty each and every month to the franchisee. Now, it's not bad, in the case when you're making a lot of money. Certain franchises you cannot duplicate on your own. You just can't do it. So you can have a burger stand. Yeah, that's fine, but it's not going to be a McDonald's. So what you're really paying for is the system and the name. So I use McDonald's as a quote unquote good franchise. Now, I don't eat there and I don't particularly care for the food. I know when my kids were little, they loved it. To me, the food isn't good. Only thing I really like is the fries. And I know now they're trying to get healthier and things like that because, people's, concerned about their health. But I just looked at a franchise the other day. I was contacted, and I'm going to call the name out. It's a company called Travel Host. Now, if you've ever gone to traveling in any hotel, sometimes you'll see a magazine and it'll say Travel Host, And what it is, it's a magazine about the local area, and I'll have advertising in it. Now, because my background, was advertising, print, digital, back in the day, newspaper, magazines, creating my own magazines, I got a contact or a call from Travel Host, and they were saying, oh, we were looking to open another franchise in the Philadelphia area. I said, all right, well, what are you talking about? And basically the pitch or the spiel was this, that I was going to obviously sell the advertising. I was actually going to have to create the content in the magazine. And in order to distribute the magazine, I was going to have to go and set up distribution with hotels in the Philadelphia area so I can distribute the magazine. And for using their name, this is how they made money. They were going to charge me to print 7,500 magazines every quarter. And the printing price that they charged or quoted me was way above what I knew I could get that type of magazine printed for. So to me, it was a total waste of time. Why am I going to pay somebody else for something that I can do? And Travel Host right now, if you look at travelhost.com or you look on the web for Travel Host, they've gotten a lot of bad pub. The previous owner, not the new owner. I spoke to the new owner. He seems like he's on point. But the previous owner wasn't running a business correctly. So I had to sit down and think. And I said, so I'm basically going to put together and create this magazine. I'm going to distribute it. And then I'm going to pay you overpriced charges to print the magazine when I can do it on my own. It didn't make sense to me. Because I can do it myself. I've already created a magazine before, several magazines. So I know that franchise to me was a waste of time. So I told the guy, I'm like, hey, I appreciate it, but it doesn't make sense to me. And that's what you really need to find out. If you're looking at a franchise, does it make sense for you to go out and create the system and your own brand, or to jump on a system that's already created that has a brand? All right. Another type of business, and there are tons of these, is the commercial cleaning businesses. CleanNet, they got all these other type of commercial cleaning businesses where they'll get you into the commercial cleaning space. When you sign up for your franchise, they'll give you X amount of accounts already. And so it's cool and it sounds good. But to me, why are you going to pay somebody for a commercial cleaning franchise when you can go and do that yourself? It's not that hard. Set up a company. You go and solicit companies, commercial office buildings, things like that. You hire a crew, you go clean, you make your money. I think what one of the biggest attractions is for a lot of these commercial cleaning companies is that they tell you they're going to get you accounts to start off. So when you get that franchise, they're going to give you some accounts. And what those accounts are they're people cold calling, trying to set up businesses for you. So when you start, you have, businesses to work in. And to me, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. That's just my humble opinion. Now, here's one of the biggest ones that I don't even understand why people do this. And what I did a couple years ago, I just did this as a test. But there's a franchise out there called Coffee News. Coffee News is an 11 by 17 brown piece of paper that has 16 ads on the front and 16 ads on the back around the edges. And in the middle, they have some like quirky stories. They may have Sudoku, crossword puzzle, horoscope type of things. But what Coffee News is, and I can't knock the concept of the people that created it. Really, it's a weekly publication that's dropped off in coffee shops, diners, places where you eat. And it's just a one-page 11 by 17 folded in half, long ways. And it just has like quirky type of news, and it has advertising around it that supports it. So now the Coffee News franchise is $8,500. And I'm saying to myself, if you don't know what you're doing, I understand you may buy this franchise. But to me, I can create the same thing without buying the franchise. And here's the funny thing with Coffee News. And like I said, it's actually a great concept and people are making a lot of money, they're franchisees. But here's the thing. They don't do the distribution. You have to create your own distribution. So after you sell the ads, put your content in the middle of the paper or that's what it is, a piece of paper. Then you have to go and distribute it and drop it off at local, restaurants and things of that nature where people will see it. So you still have to do all the work. And what you're paying Coffee News for is the name, number one, but how big is that name really? And number two, you're paying them to print. So once again, same thing as Travel Host. You're actually paying them to print the actual content on your paper. And of course, they're going to charge you a premium amount to print. So to me, that doesn't make sense. So here's actually what I did before. About a year and a half, 2 years ago, I said, let me test this. And I sometimes look at entrepreneurship as creating a laboratory, trying things to see what happened. So what I did was, in my local area, I went out and I had 32 ad spots. So I call it swipe and deploy. You don't have to rethink the wheel or recreate the wheel. Take something that you see that's working, put your spin on it. So I renamed the publication. All right. And what I did was the same layout they had. I created that and I ran around and I sold 32 ads at $49 a piece. Okay. So the type of ads that are on this publication are similar to those you would see on a placemat in a restaurant, people that advertise. So insurance agents, pizza places, just things of that nature. So I sold 32 ads at $49 a piece. And this is just for the week. So that was a gross of $1,568. To print 3,000 of those, it cost me $229.50. So after all costs, I netted $1,338. Now, in addition to that, though, I still had to go around and drop these off at different locations to get the distribution. But I did that as a test. And so I netted $1,300, $1,338 for, a week's worth of work, which is okay. But it was a damn show. It was a lot of work, man. Especially when you have to get your advertisers. So it took me a couple weeks to get 32 advertisers. And then after that, I had to do the distribution route. Now, once you get those advertisers and you sign them up for a 4-week, I didn't do it. I only did it for a week because I knew I was just testing this. But you would sign them up for a 4-week contract at $49 a week. So it's giving you, whatever it is, $200, close to, $196. Then you can start building and opening up other areas. But it all comes back to, why would I pay $8,500 for this franchise plus pay them a printing fee that is over and above the cost to print those amount of papers? And it doesn't make sense to me. So that's really what you have to think about when you're talking about franchising or buying a franchise. Now, to me, like I said, certain franchises you cannot duplicate. So if you want McDonald's, you can't duplicate that. They're too big and it's worth franchising. They have the name recognition. They have the system. They have the support. You can't duplicate that. Now, you could start a hamburger joint that's successful, but you probably won't reach the level of a McDonald's franchise. All right. Not saying that you can't, but the chances are that without the resources and the marketing and the advertising and the goodwill that McDonald's has built up over the years, it's going to be hard to duplicate that. But now when you're dealing with newer franchises or franchises that really don't have a name, what are you paying for beside the system? And here's one of the things that I always tell people. You need to investigate how these companies work. So go online, look at reviews, from franchisees. You want to go talk to people who are franchisees, and don't talk to the people that they give you. Go out and just find franchise operators. Hey, I'm interested in possibly buying into this franchise. Just wanted to talk to you about your thoughts, the pros, the cons. What do you think about it? Stuff like that. So you want to do your due diligence, because a lot of times, and I'll give you a perfect example, and I'm not going to call the name, but I was looking at a franchise in the tax preparation business years ago, and they gave me these names to call, and I didn't call any of the people that they gave me. I called other operators, and what I found out, or what I heard, was it's not what they tell you it is. So the money that they tell you you can make, you're not going to make it. So I looked at creating my own tax refund company, instant refund tax service. I created the company. Good buddy of mine who's a CPA. We did that for a year, and to me, it wasn't me, because it was overcharging people for instant returns, and the industry was changing. It was just getting crazy, so I let that go. We did it for a season, and it was good money, but to me, it just wasn't really worth it. So you have to also find a franchise that coincides with your beliefs, and making sure that you're selling a product and or a service that you believe in. So here's a couple of things if you're looking at a franchise that I'd recommend you do. Number one, review the franchise or several franchises that you have an interest in. And when you review them, what you want to do is keep an open mind. And because the way I'm built, I'm always thinking, why am I going to pay somebody else to do this when I can do it on my own? So you kind of have to think like that also, because it's true. Sometimes these franchises aren't worth the paper that the franchise agreement is written on, because nobody knows who they are. Systems you can get the systems. All you need to do is follow somebody that's already done it. So number one, review the franchises. Number two, as I mentioned before, reach out to current owners by yourself, not the franchise owners that the company is going to tell you. Reach out. You may want to touch base with them, but you definitely want to do your own due diligence and talk to other franchise owners that are not listed, the ones that they don't give you. Okay. Number three, and I mentioned this before, ask them what they like, what they don't like. All right. Number four, think to yourself, does the franchise really add value? Travel host. I just told you that story. They didn't add any value. Not to me anyway, because I already knew how to do that. I already knew how to create my own magazine. I already knew where to go to get my printing. I already knew where to go to get my graphics done. So to me, to pay you a franchise fee up front and then pay you overpriced printing doesn't make sense to me. All right. Number five, and I say this all the time, swipe and deploy. And what that means is use intel from other companies. So for example, if you really get into franchising, you're going to have to sign a non-disclosure agreement. All right, meaning you can't disclose any information about their policies and procedures. So if you are looking to swipe and deploy, don't sign an NDA. All right, because it is against the law. But you can kind of ask, and you can kind of go online and see what are some of their, the support. What does their system consist of? You may not be able to get the exact system, but you'll be able to kind of find out how they do things. And that's really what you want to do, because once again, it's are they adding value? Are they really adding value as a franchise? All right. And then number six, you just make your decision. Does it make sense? Does it make sense? In some instances, heck yeah. In others, not at all. So I get this question all the time about franchises. And remember, the franchise, they're going to make their money once you buy that franchise. Now, of course, they want you to be successful, but what that franchise fee is actually paying for is marketing, and obviously there's a profit in that. So if I'm doing a travel host franchise and they want $20,000 and they call that for printing cost of my first magazine, they could care less if I printed a magazine or not. All right. So other franchises are very, they're very inclusive of things that, like, for example, if you have a physical restaurant, now you, in addition to the franchise fee, you have the cost of the building. Even if you're renting it, then you have the build out of that building that has to be the specifications of that restaurant. I mean, it's ridiculous. Here's another example that people in the Northeast will know, especially if you're in Philly, Rita's Water Ice. All right. Now, water ice, they call them snow cones in other parts of the country, whatever. All it is flavored. It's flavored water. It's ice. It's ice that's flavored. All right. And so it's not a snow cone. It's smoother than that. It's not like chunks of ice. All right. So it's water ice. That's what we call it. All right. So Rita's Water Ice was started years ago in Philly by a firefighter. I believe he was a fireman that was on disability. Great concept. He had a spot in South Philly, and then I think his mom helped him with the next one, and it started to grow. So water ice is not expensive. It's not expensive to make, and it's not expensive to sell. So they were coming after me about, starting, Rita's Water Ice, because I think I mentioned, or I know I mentioned on the show, I started one with my daughters for some summer money years ago. I was at a couple of the minor league stadiums in the area, and I started out AJ's Water Ice. All right, so started that up, making money, and there was no need to actually be a Rita's franchisee, because you're going to make me buy this big ass store or rent this big ass store. I'm going to have to fit it out the way you want it. I'm going to have to buy and this is how they really got you. All of your materials you have to buy from them in terms of the actual flavoring, the ice, the cups, and all of that. And obviously there are margins on that. These franchisees make money on everything. So if you're a McDonald's and you're paying 3 cents for the paper wrapping around your burger, they're making a penny or two on that. So everything you do. So it didn't make sense to me. And what I did was I called a couple of Rita franchisees. I seen some was signed, for sale. I'm like, why are you selling? They were like, dude, we can't make any money. The royalty fees, the cost of, the products. And it's funny, the syrup that you put in, all water ice is, you put it in a machine. It's water in the machine. You pour in the flavoring, and the machine rotates it and freezes it up, and then you pour it out. That's all water ice is, all right? Now, the same company that Rita's was using for the actual flavoring, you could go direct to them, and the price Rita's was charging its franchisees was 25 to 30% more than what you could do if you went direct. So these are the things you got to think about. If somebody isn't really a big name out there, and Rita's is, in this area, but there's still a lot of small independent water ice shops around. So you really have to think, what am I getting? All right, because these franchisees aren't in business to lose money. They're going to make money off your initial fee, and then they're going to continuously make money off of your royalties and your advertising costs and things of that nature, and even a lot of times the products that you use for the business that you have to buy through them. So I'm not knocking franchises. And like I said, I've looked at them, but the ones that I've looked at, to me, and this is just me, didn't make sense for me. Because I can do, if you're not giving me that great name brand recognition, I'm pretty sure that I can do the same thing that you can do. And instead of buying a franchise, maybe I can create my own franchise opportunity. So that's what you really have to think about. So number one, review the different franchises, things that you may have an interest in. Do some due diligence. Number two, reach out to the current owners of the franchise, some of the other franchise owners in your area or somewhere else, and ask them what they like and what they don't like. Number three. Number four, does the franchise really add value? Does it really make sense for you to spend all this money? Does it add value like a McDonald's or a Papa John's or whatever, where people know right away, wow, yeah, that's Papa John's. We know they're good. We're going there. So does the franchise really add value? Number five, swipe and deploy. And what I mean by that is look at their systems. Look at what they're offering you. Can you duplicate that on your own? Or do you think it's better to go with them? Number six, you got to make your decision. Is it worthwhile? Does it make sense? And like I said, for a person like me who's done a lot of things and, I'm not scared to jump out there, it has to be a real strong franchise for me before I would even sign on the dotted line, because I always look at with the third eye. I'm like, all right, I'm doing this. How much does it cost? And I tell you, the one that takes the cake on me really was Travel Host. I'm like, my God, why would anybody that has the ability to create their own magazine go and do this and pay inflated prices for printing? There's no support in terms of distribution. So I'm still doing everything, going around to the hotels. Hey, can I drop my Travel Host magazine off here? It's not like they already had it set up. I'm doing everything. And you want me to pay you an upfront franchise fee and higher price printing costs? Man, that's insane. That's insane. But if you don't come from the industry or you don't know, then you don't know. And you may think that's cool. So that's why I'm saying, make sure, do your due diligence. You may want to stick to an area or industry that you have some experience in. And I know a lot of these franchises like, oh, no experience needed, because they do provide you with a system, and that's cool. But you need to know if you're getting ripped off or not. Like I said, the printing cost that Travel Host was trying to sell me was ridiculous. I called my printer. They gave me their cost. I called my printer up. I'm like, yo, what's it going to cost for this? And he was like, dude, he said, it's ridiculous. And I was like, yeah, that's what I figured. So to franchise or not to franchise, I know it may sound like I'm anti-franchise, but I'm not. But if you are going to franchise, make sure that you dig deep, do your due diligence, do your research, and make sure that they add value. Franchises, the pros are should be a proven system. You should have name recognition, and you should have support. The cons are a lot of times the cost. Also, if you don't follow the policies and procedures to a T, you really have no flexibility. And I understand that because you're using their system. And then you also have the lifetime royalty payments and advertising payments. So there's a ton of great franchises out there. I'm not, like I said, I'm not anti-franchise, but it has to make sense for each individual. And for me, there's certain criteria and things that I look for that make sense to me in a franchise. And you're going to have to do the same. So that's today's show, guys. It's funny because I get a lot of my consulting clients talking to me about buying franchises. And so this is a conversation that I have probably, to be honest, 2 or 3 times a month with different people about franchises. So I don't want you to get the wrong idea that I'm anti-franchise, but to me, it just has to make sense. If it's something that you can duplicate yourself and have your freedom to be able to morph your business. And here's another example with that. So I looked at Liberty Tax Service years ago. So they wanted you to get an office, which you need to have open 12 months out of the year, right? So I'm like, okay. Now, tax season is usually from January to April, May, if you're filing late. So what am I going to do with that office space that I'm paying for 12 months? All right. Now, most people that lease office space or retail space, if you're a seasonal business, they'll make your rent higher during the season and lower during the off season. But one of the things I didn't know about that I didn't like about Liberty at the time was, I don't know if they changed it, but you couldn't use your office for anything else. So I had a mortgage business at the time. So I could have used that office, for my mortgages too, which would coincide nicely with tax returns because I'm working with people's finances. I know what they're doing when they apply for a mortgage. So we had that data. So that was one of the reasons I looked at a tax franchise to supplement, what we were currently doing with the mortgages. But when they were saying, oh man, you got to keep this business open 12 months a year and pay this rent, I'm like, that didn't make a lot of sense to me. And then when I started looking at the fees that they charge me, so every time you do a tax return with these tax franchises, they charge you a percentage. Okay. You have what's called an EFIN number. EFIN. And what happens is, based on your EFIN number, if you have an EFIN number which is under, say, Liberty Tax or one of these any other tax franchise, anytime you do a filing, they get a percentage of that. So once again, with my good buddy being a CPA and he does electronic filing, we were like, all right, well, we don't need to do that. We can keep all the money. And we weren't trying to be a national or international franchise. We were trying to supplement the mortgage business. So you have to look at how will this franchise play into, or if it does play into your current business, your lifestyle or whatever. So I just wanted to leave you guys with that. To franchise or not to franchise, do your due diligence, make sure it makes sense, contact current franchisees and see what they really have to say, not the ones that they give you when you're doing your due diligence, because they're going to give you people that are very happy and very successful. With Travel Host, for example, I think out of the close to 40 or 50 franchisees, man, I don't even know. 3 of them I talked to weren't even making any money. So once again, that I'm not going to say that's true for everybody there, but to me, that just didn't make sense for me as a franchise. So also, guys, before we close out, please continue to spread the word about Black Entrepreneur Blueprint, the podcast and the blog. We're getting more and more downloads every episode. We got some killer guests coming up in the next couple of weeks that I've scheduled. So I know you guys are going to really enjoy these guests, high profile, successful entrepreneurs and deep thinkers too. If you need to connect with me, hit me at jjones@blackentrepreneurblueprint.com, JAYJONES @blackentrepreneurblueprint.com, Facebook, Black Entrepreneur Blueprint, Twitter, jjones001, Instagram, jjones4real, that's JAYJONES, the number 4, REAL, and YouTube, got a YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube, Black Entrepreneur Blueprint. I love you guys. I'll see you same time next week. Peace.